Hi, my name is Curtis Dietz, second trumpet with Symphony Nova Scotia. I am here to give you an inside view to our upcoming Baroque concert on March 17th, Vibrant, Vivaldi, and Friends. This is a really fantastic program in a lot of respects. Vivaldi holds a very special foundational place in the history of orchestral music. I thought it would be great for our audience to sit in on a conversation I had with our leader for this concert, bassoonist, conductor, and composer Mathieu Lussier. He has chosen some very beautiful pieces from the French Baroque as well to go with our Vivaldi selections. We also welcome fabulous young soprano Magali Simard-Galdès to sing selections by Vivaldi and Isabelle Fournier. I will be performing the Vivaldi Concerto for two trumpets with Richard Simoneau, principal trumpet of Symphony Nova Scotia, who is actually an old classmate of Mathieu's. My good friend and fabulous principal second violinist, Isabelle Fournier, will be featured in the Vivaldi Concerto in F major. This concerto also features our horn and oboe sections especially. There are so many things I'm excited to discuss with Mathieu. I hope you will stay tuned and enjoy Mathieu's take on this amazing music and our thoughts on performing it for you. Welcome, Mathieu. Thank you so much for doing this. So excited you're coming.
Happy to be back too.
Yes. So the last time you were here was Messiah.
Yeah.
That was Messiah.
Yeah.
So I think people, technically Messiah would be a Baroque piece, but it's kind of got a life of its own.
Yeah, kind of.
But this music is a real Baroque, what I think of as the Baroque music.
Yeah. It's like it's I think the second program where we will explore together like the music of Vivaldi, but also the music of a lesser known composer from the French Baroque, and that's something I truly like to do because for me Vivaldi, especially the piece we're going to play together, the two trumpet concerto, is like it's actually what is at the basis of my love for Baroque music. I have like countless memories related to that specific work. So when I think about Baroque music, that's the soundtrack in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously, I think every musician has a Vivaldi moment, or most of us. I think of maybe some instruments don't, but it's a special place, Vivaldi, for musicians. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to describe for me. I wonder if you could help me do that, because I felt in my intro for this, I feel he's a foundational composer for so many things.
He is, I think, and like there's like when we read or when we teach Baroque music, like when we try to explain what Baroque music is like, it's about contrast, it's about being theatrical, it's about being moving, angry, like just like raw emotion. And Vivaldi has that in his music. It's like really, and as well as that, to me, I always like to say that somehow Vivaldi is a bit of the Philip Glass of the 18th century, like this little cells that keep repeating it, but like in like perfect proportions most of the time, where any composers of the time who try to imitate Vivaldi's style have not done it very successfully. And it's the same challenge for minimalist music nowadays. So I think like we respond well to Philip Glass and all these, Max Richter, a new minimalist composer, and like as well as for the same reason we respond well to Vivaldi for something, mm-hmm. but it's like he plays on the both fields in that regard, and it's just like it's elegant. It's most of the time super well written. I don't know for you, but like he wrote like 39 bassoon concertos, and they're challenging but extremely well written. Mm-hmm. So it's fun. He knows how instinctively to showcase the instrument to their best. So no, it's a pure joy, and to know that he fell into oblivion like totally at his death, and that like we now cannot imagine a world of music without Vivaldi, especially in the Baroque sphere. But like prior to 1950, no one knew who Vivaldi was. So it's quite a comeback,
Is that right? I had no idea it was that late that he was
rediscovered. It's like after the Second World War, like
really?
These like, who's that Vivaldi guy? It's like, oh, we found something called the Four Seasons, and like then there was like a shock,
Is that right?
But,
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy,
yeah.
And like it was like buried there, like in
Yeah,
Torino, the library, and then
yeah,
we knew through Bach arrangement for
yeah.
harpsichord of like the name of Vivaldi, but all of his music is just like quite a late comeback.
Is
Yeah.
that well to me? That strikes on one of my themes for our conversation. Really was going to be one of my joys in life is to find a gem, that's been overlooked in a
Yeah.
store. Like say you see something in the corner and like, oh, look at this, nobody's there.
Yeah.
And I feel like because this program, I don't want people to think, oh, this is off the beaten path or this is eclectic in some way, because these are actually unbelievable pieces. I've really enjoyed preparing for us to listen to these things because the Four Seasons, we all have heard this and it gets played, and even the Vivaldi Concerto for Trumpet I think is played fairly often.
Yeah.
But some of these pieces, at least in Nova Scotia, are going to be new for people, and I really want to tell them, this is the heart of Vivaldi. These pieces, I think they're so. I think I dig in a little bit on the first, the concerto, which is incredible. It's not a concerto. There is a violin prominent, but it's really your horns are taking off, your oboes are taking off, and it's quite an incredible piece.
But it's what's amazing, like is when we now when we discover and when we study like a body of work from a composer, we just like we take it all. But then if you start digging, you understand that why it was written or sometime who for. And like that concerto we're opening with, it's like Vivaldi wanted to send music to Pisendel, a great violinist who was leading the Dresden Orchestra, which was like, according to the text we have, one of the greatest, if not the finest orchestra in Europe at the time. And that orchestra was like a big symphony-sized orchestra with all these winds. So Vivaldi, as far as we know, didn't even make it to Dresden, but he sent that music just to show this is what I can do at my best, So it was not like, oh, I need to write another concerto for one of the girl at the Pietà,
Yeah.
or just like I'm having this last minute gig and I need to write like my fourth Magnificat or something.
Hmm.
No, it was like just like this is my portfolio, like sent to the best orchestra. So
Hmm.
this is what I can do great. And like we feel that. I share your excitement about that. It's just like it's opening, it's grand. It's like it's larger than most of Vivaldi concerto that normally all last like
Hmm.
exactly 9 minutes and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But this one particular thing that's really striking to me is the way he wrote for these violin solo in this piece, because how it struck me was a circus, almost like this tightrope violinist with a parasol, and
Yeah.
there's really nothing under, sometimes all by herself, in this case herself, and with maybe one instrument underneath, and it's so it's so beautiful, it's so delicate
Yeah.
and sweet, and you don't tend to hear anybody wrote like that afterwards for some reason, in my experience anyway.
Yeah, we link it that like that sort of virtuosity is what like someone like Paganini would then take over in the 19th century. It's
Yeah.
like just like something that is meant especially for somebody who had the technical potential to play that, because it's like, as you said, it goes on and it's like without a net, just
Yeah.
like that like little tiny cello, very subtle line, and like the violin going super high, super virtuosic. Vivaldi knew Pisandel's fame, knew he could do that and say, well, I'm gonna write him something that only he sort of can play,
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you're right. After that, it's just like there's a practical aspect of music at the time too. Like composers were just like need like to produce, make a living. So it's just like often would do something, recycle it for another instrument or make sure that it could be sold to amateur and something like that. With this piece, we're not at all in this sphere. And I mean, I don't know much about the genesis of the two trumpet concerto, but it's kind of the idea of the double choir that we have in St. Mark in Venice that like it's quite virtuosic for the trumpet too. So I'm not sure like anywhere in Europe at the time outside of Italy, if there was, after the Gabrieli tradition of the trumpet playing and the brass playing, I'm not
Yeah.
sure like French trumpetists could play something like that either. So
Yeah.
it's fun to think back. We don't
Yeah.
we receive that today, and we've heard so many music
Hmm.
coming after. We're not really just like reflecting on like how truly special and extraordinaire it might have been at the time, just to people, just for the audience to receive that music.
Yeah. Well, it's for the trumpet part. I'll just skip to that for a little bit, but it's for me and Richard. We started, and Richard was a old classmate of yours, and you know what a brilliant player he was. I'm the luckiest trumpet player in the world. I got to play with him for all these years, honestly. But when to play it, you have to almost. I view it like, and probably a lot of the other things you're going to hear on this program, is like when you see those jets flying in formation. You know, they have to know exactly. It's because tuning is never, as you know, like straight line. You know, it's going to be this. So there's no replacement for time with someone playing in a section. So like you can't. I've heard this piece and no names, but like people, great player, and it doesn't work. And maybe other Vivaldis like that. I'm not sure about yourself, but I know exactly what Richard's going to do. I know exactly what, and so it's just so fun. And the other thing people sometimes think is, do you get tired of these pieces or something? And I don't know about you, but like for people that know out there, I never get tired of these great pieces. Never. I mean, and I can play it with or without an audience. I think is this interesting thing about Baroque music. We actually don't need your audience. We love it so, but we love that you come. We want you to come. But do you feel that way?
Yeah, you're right. I like the idea. It's kind of a stand by itself for ourselves, and like,
it's very personal. It's the most personal music, I think, Baroque music.
Yeah.
But so let's cut to our amazing singer we have coming, Magali. So these pieces, I was listening to them, and we think of virtuosic violin, trumpet playing, 16th notes. She has to do that with a voice, and it's quite a tour de force.
It is a tour de force, and it's like the thing we don't know exactly, because there's of course no recording, is like how great musicians were, and like the music is even demanding today. It's just like and we like to think that we're somehow better than they were 200 years ago, but then you see that music, it's so challenging with these like endless phrases, these crazy melisma for the voice or for the instrument. So, and then you say, oh, maybe they were doing that slowly, but then musicologists have like dug into several information, saying like proving with many different details that no, they probably were just like doing that very fast. So they was probably just excellent too. So like it's challenging still for a singer today, and Magali is like an amazing singer. She sings contemporary opera. She's a trained violinist. That helps a lot. Just have some kind of like a precision and a rigor in her work. But and she agreed to, we worked together on several projects. She agreed to learn the motet we've done already together. So I knew that this was something that she had, but like the Alma Operessa aria, it's just like it's an opera in one aria. Just it's like really dramatic, very virtuosic, very challenging. And she was like, this is going to be a challenge, but I love the music so much, because that's the thing. There's still tons of music to discover by Vivaldi. He wrote like over 40 operas, and we barely know them. We've now kind of retrieved the music, but like it's only starting. And so there's like, you're talking about gems, there's still gems to be found in Vivaldi's music. And that's exciting. So like, to me, when I come across one of these arias, and like it's, as you just said 5 minutes ago too, I cannot get tired of that. So I was like, and that one, like this is going to be my 4th time I think with you guys. I'm trying just to, we all play in the pool of the Baroques here, but like just try, even with Vivaldi, just to bring new music or new discoveries to me that I'm enthusiastic about and want to share.
Yeah, well, those pieces. What struck me on what's the one Furore of
L'estamore, or In Furore,
yes, that one. What I always loved about it, that's what I mean about if you love the Four Seasons, or there's aspects of the Four Seasons I love, and it's that the way the strings play those parts when they get into the real digging into things, like bum 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 bum, and this has that in spades. Like if you like that kind of Vivaldi, it's just almost out of your seat kind of violin playing. I love that stuff. I love it. And if you like, so I'm trying to say to people, if you like Four Seasons, this is almost more Vivaldi than that. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. And I think that the singing is very unusual to be able to sing that she was a violinist, to be able to play sing those 16ths as if you were a violinist. Like it really is an instrument in Vivaldi's mind, you can tell.
And it helps because like all this vocal music, I mean, some of it is also very instrumental in the conception of it. So, and sometimes like singers have amazing voice, but they're trained in a way just to be always singing and like the kind of the stylistically appropriate approach to like the dance-like things, even with sacred word. Sometimes it's hard to achieve. With Magali, I mean, it took us, I think, 3 minutes on the first project to feel that we were like, meant to be doing music together. And like it was a Handel project in Montreal during the pandemic, but like it was like she has that intelligence on top of this beautiful voice and agility that is a requirement. And like it's going to be great in this program because she's going to also sing some Isabelle Fournier music that is like a totally different kind of Baroque music, totally different, as challenging to sing, but in a totally different way. It's like a different approach, different concept of what virtuosity meant at the time too.
Yes. Yeah, now these French Baroque pieces, the Laguerre and the Francoeur, I think it's so apt to do these pieces here. I mean, we had a concert of French Baroque several years ago with Ivar's Torrance, and it really struck me. It's different. It's not your Germanish, British, French. It's elegant. It's I'm trying to describe. This is how I feel. I'll just give you my thoughts on it. It's elegant. It's very much the French court sort of feel, which is and I think that the Laguerre, especially, like she's quite an early Baroque sound.
Yeah. The 17th century.
Yeah. So it's very refined and beautiful in a different way. But I think it's so apt here because our French history is very long here. Like it's 1604, I think, is when Champlain was in Port Royal before Quebec City. So we've had a French presence here for 400 years. It's amazing. So we have Louisbourg, the fortress, and things, lots of in Acadia. So I have no doubt something of this music might have been played here, in that time, So it's and I just love that we're doing that you're bringing this to us. Yeah.
And Jacques Laguerre is interesting because, I mean, there's like a needed effort right now just to bring to like a lot of the music by female composers. But like Jacques Laguerre was not in the shadow during her lifetime. She was a published composer. She was like one of the most praised improviser at the court of Louis XIV. So it's not like it's not a curiosity. There's like major works by her, but like to me this specific aria I discovered like through a guest conductor we had with Arion, my Baroque orchestra, a couple of seasons ago, and French Baroque music, as you say, is very special. It's this unique style. It's hard to play because it's very different. But like I think the second time I came and conduct a concert with Symphony Nova Scotia, we also did some French Baroque, and I had a great time with the orchestra. I could feel that you guys have done enough Baroque music with enough different, conductors just to get like to have like the open-minded, like to try stuff. And we did Rebelle, we did Colin Blamont at the time, and Jean-Marie Leclerc, and I had a blast. So I was like, Jacques Laguerre, I would be careful normally, but with you guys, I was like, no, this is going to be great. Francoeur was just a bit later. He was like a businessman of the music. He was like, I'm setting up these works. I will write some of the movements. I might borrow some of the other movements from some colleagues. Copyright is not such a thing yet, so I'm going to take credit for this.
Yeah.
So, like we'll close the show with that massive chaconne from his suite, but it's actually by Pancras Royer, another lesser known French composer.
Is that right? Yeah.
He's like, no harm in this, you know?
Well, that I have to say, the finale is absolutely incredible. The end of that chaconne is it's got this. I don't know. It just starts to build and build and build. It's not like a in your face build. It's like It's really, really fantastic, the ending of that.
And
Yeah.
the great thing about this to me, and that's why the program is conceived that way, is just like when the listeners will hear this, the end of the chaconne, there's that kind of like the repetition that
Yeah.
it's actually inherited from Vivaldi's music. So there's like,
Yeah.
you know, French music, but with the
Yeah.
influence of this like kind of like almost energy that some people call even rock and roll-ish, like a lot of beat and just like very, very like clear and simple chord structure, but just the power of the rhythm, and
Yeah.
that's Vivaldi's music traces in the late French
Yes.
Baroque.
It's exactly right. At the end of that it is those underlying the 16ths, I guess.
Yeah.
It just comes in and it just gets you. And
Mm-hmm.
I hope people listen for that anyway when they come, because the end of that is great. Just talk a little bit about the Kette
Yeah.
for four. Now, I'm terrible to ask this, but are you playing?
I'm playing.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
all right. I should have known
yeah.
that, but I wasn't 100%. That's fantastic.
Well, it's just like when we did Messiah last time, like you guys have such a amazing continuous section in the orchestra, and and I played with Max a couple of times too with Top of Music, and I know Gabe because like bassoonists were all member of the same brotherhood somehow, and and Rachel and all that, and so I was like, and I played also bassoon the other time I came, and I just want the bass instrument are like the essence of Baroque music, but they're often just like the fundament and not. And then we do concerto, we do something for the top instruments. And Kette is a very, very interesting composer. He's kind of like the most professional of the amateur musician of his time. Wrote method for all the instruments, like how to learn to play the cello easily and
Oh,
stuff
really?
like that.
Wow.
Not that easy, but anyway, there's a book to how to do it. And like he wrote that quite unique set of music for bass as instrument. There's a book called Les Délices de la Solitude. There's 6 sonatas for 2 bass. And this work that we're going to play, it's called the Phoenix. It's a concerto for 4 bass instruments. So you can play 4 bassoons, 4 cello, 4 gamba, 4 double bass. And why not like a jolly mix of all of these instruments? So we're going to do that. It's like also very Vivaldian in the fact that ritornelles and a lot of unison and like just that massive compressed bass sound that's like
Yeah.
a very, very unique. There's like, no other example of like
Yeah.
that, my knowledge, around.
One thing I think it was the second movement, the slow movement. You're off again, like in Vivaldi-esque, alone on
Yeah.
melodies with 2, like it breaks down to 2.
Yeah.
But the cadences are gorgeous when the 4 come in to finish the phrases. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Those
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
harmonies are
Yeah.
exquisite. I don't know if it's because of those were new at the time, but they're very, very beautiful. The way they finish, he finishes those phrases.
Yeah. No, and Kette was like very, very much aware of Vivaldi's music. So you're right to say that like the bareness of the middle part of the slow movement, the simplicity, but the power of just these dissonance well used. This is all coming from Vivaldi. Kette wrote a whole sacred piece called Laudate Dominum on the spring of the 4th season, but he had it like extra movements, choir, soloist, and winds. So he was really, really fond of Vivaldi's music. And in the Phoenix, there's no direct quote, but all these ritornello that are like kind of a signature of Kette at the time, where like after everybody is doing his thing, we all go back in the same line, play unisono. That's also to me a direct link to Vivaldi's music.
Yeah. Well, it's I'm really looking forward to that piece. That's going to be spectacular. As a conductor and composer yourself, people often wonder, well, what's the most difficult thing about what you do? And I've often thought conducting, some people might think a Baroque conducting is maybe simpler or easier than, say, a Ravel or something. But I've always thought it's actually must be more challenging because there's less defined. Like, especially say a modern composer like Hindemith, there's nothing to the imagination. He's written everything out. Absolutely. You're going to play this at this tempo, at this dynamic. Whereas the freedom you have as a Baroque leader, it's a bit intimidating to me.
It's a super interesting question, Curtis, because it also you're right in a way that like and it's what the score, what the music means. Like prior to 1800, the music was produced only to tell the structure of the work, and sometime with instruments, nothing else. After 1800, it's like the score is there to tell you what's the music and how to play it. But it was not, it's not because they didn't know how to do it. It's just like it was all pre uh, agreed on, that everyone knew what to do with the music. So you just needed the note, the rhythm. There's no tempo markings, there's no articulation, because, and the only signs in the music, and this is for most composers of the 18th century, the only signs we have are not necessarily like just do this there because I want this. That's also what they meant, but it mostly mean normally you would do that and I would not put anything, but if I've put the slur there, if I've put like this nuance there or this accent, it means watch out, this is not as usual. This is something different. So it's kind of a reprogramming. So you're right. Then nowadays, these concepts, these codes, most of us, we lost that. Some of us have dug into it to just try to rebuild this language. But then nothing is in the part, so everything has to be shared, explained, tried, and something else could be possible too, because since there's no dynamic, no sir, and even the concept of nuance or dynamic could be like inversed, and the music would stand by itself. Like think of your own Vivaldi concerto, you could reverse all the forte and the piano, the piece would still be a good piece
Yeah.
because it's about contrast.
Mhm.
So it's not more. It's actually I'm not sure it makes the conducting of Baroque music more difficult. It's challenging, but it's fascinating because I mean, let's be real. No one really knows the conductor to tell it, oh, this is the first beat in Vivaldi. We all know where the first beat. There's like no way you can get lost in a Vivaldi piece. So the conducting part of it, it's actually a reference point, but like once the rehearsal process is over, somehow I would like to say, I don't want to say out loud because I still would like to be hired to do it, but like we could do without the conductor, because like the conductor is actually basically in the rehearsal process is saying, this is the way we're going to do this music this week. And next week, if somebody else come, if Ivars come do the same program, he will probably have a different idea. It will still be amazing work, but be different. So, but it's great. That's what I like about it. And it's just like it's about like building an interpretation with the equipment, with the size of the orchestra we have, that greatly varied through the time too, and make sure that that music reaches full power of eloquence that that day in the church, and that's the work you have to do, and just be there just to get the spirit, the affect, not as much as like it's no Indemith or Mahler or big ass thing to coordinate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you, as a composer yourself, I really admire that so much that you took on the composition. As a classical background, we learn harmony in our training and things like that, but it's not generally accepted you're going to go on to compose, as a musician. It's pretty rare, really. And I mean, to put pen to paper, you're joining this incredible community of ancient great composers. But if you go to the jazz world, it's interesting because of course you're going to write something right away. They're free. They're told you must write. You're expected. You're going to write something. You're going to learn how to improvise. You're going to learn to be free. I think it's one criticism of what we do, and maybe that you've broken through yourself to let go and be creative, because even to be an effective Baroque musician, these things are required.
This helped, and I'm not a trained composer, and like I feel it when I write. I would have benefited if I had taught. I would write music. I would have like been a bit more serious in attending harmony, fugue, and counterpoint classes. I've just not done it because I was into playing the bassoon. I got into composing and it's a true story, is because like the most famous bassoon quartet in my days at school was called Pigs by Ellen Rideout. Everything was involved in bassoon. It was always
Yeah.
like a scherzo, pigs, the donkey, the whole man, all that. And it's like, come on, guys, like bassoon
Yeah.
can do better than that. So I start writing like a little tango to show that what the bassoon could do. And like bassoonists say, well, this is fun, write more. So I just did more in the spirit either of a jazz people who just all write something, but like the Baroque musician who was like arranging, composing, playing, leading, organizing. So that's um just but we're not trained like that now. We're all specialists. You either compose, you either play, you either do. Organists will be trained to improvise, but I didn't get that. I wish I had done it, and
Yeah.
it's just like um, but like you can go back, but as you said, I think it's just like about just doing it, and like
Hmm.
if it's well, it won't be played, and if people find some values in it, then good. You just keep doing it, and but that is super interesting because it's the approach of the Baroque music too. So when I write this there, I try to put the indication there, but I also realize that sometimes I wish, like a Baroque musician, people would get into my music and say, "Well, this is probably what he meant," and then bring their own poetic imagination into like the basic structure of what I've sent in the universe.
Yeah. Well, it's your stuff has been very successful, obviously, and I think that like Vivaldi, interesting on a composition thing is that he was just so prolific, unbelievably prolific, and that I've heard that about writers that like other people, other arts. It's just people are successful. They just do it, just write and write and write, and in a way we've kind of lost that. I mean, Bach had a mass to write for every week, or a cantata to compose. He says it was a job. Like it was, I'm sure the sculptors were the same thing in Florence. We had to have these turn out the sculptures. And it's like I must be part of that in composition is just doing and not thinking a whole lot too much about it.
But also the what made the difference with Vivaldi writing like hundreds of concerto and Beethoven writing seven concertos. It's not that Beethoven was less prolific. It's about like what it meant for a composer to write. Like Beethoven was putting his gut on the table at everything, but also what the expectation from the audience. Like if we go back to Vivaldi's and Bach time, there was very, very little interest for these audience to listen again to something that Bach or Vivaldi had written the previous season or 2 seasons ago. They only were looking forward to what was coming next.
Hmm.
You heard Mozart 35th. I don't want to hear it again. I want to hear Mozart 36th. And now, and after with like the cult of the composer in the 19th century, it was about like expression, like soul, and like we created the canon and like the idea of masterwork that we go back to and like we listen to it because we know it. But like uh, um, 18th century music, and I think that's also why they were asked to write Bach and all these guys just to produce because it was like just it's not about how do you feel? Are you sad? Will you want to
Yeah.
produce like a sad concerto? It's like no, we need new pieces. There's concerto, so it's not about how you feel, what you want to express. It's just like there was like expectation as well as like the audience desire just to see what was new. And Vivaldi was a very, very famous composer in his lifetime, but he died in misery and completely forgotten because after a while, fashion changed and he fell into like just being like out of the taste of the people in Venice. So he just moved to Vienna and died alone. So, uh, but no one, Intimate is uh, a great name just to put because he's also extremely prolific. And in the 20th century, we have like Intimate, Martinu that have like created like, and Darius Milhaud maybe like bodies of work that looks like the bodies of work of the century composers in the numbers. But like if you look at the 19th century, a prolific composer in the 19th century, it's like what maximum 100 work or something like that. Like if you look at opus number and stuff like
That's
that.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, so I'm really looking forward to next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, me too. It's going to be fantastic. And good luck with your concerts this weekend. And
Thanks, Curtis.
hopefully you'll bring us some of the good weather.
There's still a lot of snow.
It's freezing rain, verglas today or whatever. So it's, but I think it's
recovered from the massive snow.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much gone. Yeah, pretty much gone.
Okay.
It's
Do I need my winter boots? The real question for me is like, should I wear winter boots or can I come in shoes?
No, I think you can leave the Sorels. I think you.
Okay. I sure will.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for doing this. I just thought it was great to. I generally don't like a lot of talk about music and concerts and things, but I mean, that I do and things. But I like beforehand. It's almost like a tour guide, you know. If you're going to see the Louvre or something, or Notre Dame Cathedral or something, if you study a bit about what you're going to hear, I thought if we had a conversation like this, it might help people to know what to expect. That kind of creates some anticipation, you know.
Okay, but you don't mind if I talk a little bit during the concert too?
Oh no, not at all. But it's I find generally. Today, there's a lot of talking. Whether you go to like my wife's organist and horn player Gina. Actually, she was at the conservatoire when you were there. But there's lots of talk and things that used to be an experience. You know, just to go in and let the music or let the experience wash over you, is kind of going away. So I'm always I like talking about music and then playing it, and then letting it happen. Yeah. So but I understand you're going to talk. I'm not putting. They will love to hear you talk about the pieces, I'm sure.
Some of it, like, you know, before bassoon music, you need like a couple of jokes just to.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Mathieu.
Thank you, Curtis.
Okay.
Have a good day.
100%. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining our conversation with Mathieu Lussier about our upcoming concert on March 17th. I really hope you come. It's going to be a fantastic concert. Thank you very much.